Vincent stepped away from the device that he had spent 2 days working on. His hands were covered in sores from the delicate wiring and other difficult parts of the plastic component, and he even found himself bleeding sometimes from sharp yet tiny parts of the remote. But it was over. He looked at the shiny remote. Well, almost shiny. There were a few greases of butter that were on it from the toast. In a way, it resembled a remote that anyone would use on a daily basis, and would probably be looked over by anyone that didn't look at it closely. Although it couldn't do anything that the doctor's sonic could do, it was supposed to turn on or off any device that had electricity running through it. "All right," Vincent said as he stood up wobbling, feeling that his legs had fallen asleep and his vision go fuzzy and see many colours. After a few minutes of standing there like an idiot, he managed to see properly and grab the remote, careful not to touch the top part of it, for the most important part of the entire remote was there. Vincent wanted to make sure it worked, so he pointed it at the TV, the same way one would if they were turning it on, and sure enough, the TV still worked. He tried the remote on his computer, and it produced the same result. Vincent smiled. There was only one way to make sure that the remote worked the way he wanted it to. He got out a stole blueprint from the building, and mapped which spot would produce the best results for defeating the children who were possessing the robots. After a few minutes of looking at the map and through the hacked security feed on his computer, he came to the conclusion that the office was the best place to stage this attack, sheerly out of that they all came there and that the room would lock to prevent escape. He smiled. He had a plan, then walked about 5 feet from the table to the couch and put the remote on the coffee table. "Now," he said as he lay on the couch, feeling as if he hadn't slept in days. "Oh, wait. Tomorrow," he said himself before he fell asleep. "Tomorrow I have my revenge." And then he fell asleep. A few hours later, 12 p.m. to be more precise, Vincent woke up with a ray of sunlight on his chest. He yawned and rubbed his eyes, wincing when he felt the crust fall out of his eye. He had almost wondered what he was going to do today when he saw the remote and remembered. Soon Vincent had that warm fuzzy feeling that he liked, a feeling which gave him purpose and something to plot about. He stood up from the couch and got his purple uniform along with his treasured purple trench coat. He also started gathering everything that he needed for the operation. But as he did, all he could think about when he was getting dressed was that night he did the job that made 5 children disappear. Only this time it would be different. Jack would not be there to help him, and that Vincent actually could kill these people without having to ambush them. He sighed. He was beginning to miss Jack. True, he was a bit crazy and had tried to kill him, but in the end, it was Jack's death that really made him hate his job for once in his life. "Stay on topic," he told himself. "Jack's dead. There's nothing you can do about that." He resumed to what he was doing before the thought had entered his mind. Soon he looked the exact same way he had when he had killed the children. Purple trench coat, gold badge, and his trusty kitchen knife. He had also brought a pistol if things went down south, and a 16-round magazine if things got really bad. Vincent walked out of the apartment, aware that he could die tonight. He shrugged it off, telling himself that he can't lose this time, especially with the remote. He then drove away from his apartment to Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria for the first time in 8 years, and fell asleep when he got to the pizzeria. Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, parking lot, 11:45 p.m. Vincent woke up to the sound of something being slapped to the front of his windshield. He opened up his eye to see that a police officer was over his windshield. "Sir, can you please step out of your car?" the police officer asked. Panic flared in his mind. Surely he couldn't have figured out that he was the murderer. Did he leave some clue that he didn't think through? Vincent stepped out of the car, his nerves tense near his hips that held the pistol and the knife if the officer tried to get him. Are you aware that you've been parked here for over 11 hours? The officer asked. Vincent looked at his windshield to see a parking ticket right where anybody could see it. He felt a bit relieved but bummed out at the same time because he got a parking ticket. "Yeah," he answered. "I work here." "Really?" the officer asked. "I work the night shift," he answered, pointing to his gold security badge and his purple hat that had the word security on it. And when he did this, he saw that the officer was believing his story. "Just checking," the officer said as he walked away from his car and got into his own car. Then the officer drove away from the parking lot, making it empty except 2 other cars. Vincent walked to the pizzeria, and he felt memories coming back. Memories of him, Jack, and Valerie running from the cops the same way a group of friends would frolic if they were running through a field in the movies, then having an ice cream together. Jack making fun of Valerie and vice versa. "Stop it," he told himself. "Just do the plan and get out of here." He opened the big glass doors and went into the office. when he saw someone no older than 18 sitting in the big leather chair, and when he entered the room, the 18-year-old looked at him. "Who are you?" the teen asked. "I'm head of security," Vincent answered. "I'll take the shift tonight." The teen then bolted from the chair. For a second, Vincent felt his hand draw to his knife that was in his belt and was ready to stab the teen in the neck, but the teen didn't attack him, but hugged him. "Thank you so much," the teen said as he continued to hug him. Vincent said. "You have to go." "Oh, right," the guard said as he left the office, leaving his hat behind and making a beeline for the front door. He had a vague idea that the reason the teen wanted to leave was that he knew the gig that was up at the pizzeria. He looked at his watch, which read 11:57 p.m. Vincent bit his lip. This was it. He took off the trench coat to reveal that he was wearing the uniform that the night guard was wearing, and took off his purple security hat and put on the new navy blue hat to make him look like the night guard instead of himself. He then sat in the leather chair, his hands shaking from anticipation. He grabbed the remote from the trench coat that was still on the back of the chair and tested it on the monitor to see if it worked, and sure enough, it did. He tried to take calm breaths, but he found it difficult with the amount of stress in the air. Vincent looked down at his watch. It was 12 a.m. He tried to calm himself by taking deep breaths, but he felt his heartbeat accelerate past 180 beats per minute. He found it difficult to stay in his chair. Soon he was gently tossing the remote in between his hands. He heard footsteps come near his left and right doors. Vincent took another breath. There was no going back. Vincent looked up to see Bonnie and Chica's head poking through the door. He avoided eye contact with them just in case they identified him. "Oh, hello, Mr. Endoskeleton," Bonnie said, waving his hand. "Look," Chica added. "Can you please let us put you in a costume? I promise, blah blah blah, alone time." Door to keep them out, especially Chica. But he just kept calm. "Don't make me come in there," Bonnie said. "You're right," Vincent said in a perfect impression of Mike's voice. "I should come with you." "Yay," Chica said. "I'll go get Freddy. He just loves it when we do this." Chica then left the right door and came back with a large brown bear that looked half asleep. "You better have a good reason to wake me up on a Monday," Freddy said in an agitated voice. "The endoskeleton wants to try on a costume for once," Chica told him, as the 3 band members entered the room, making it feel like the walls were closing in. Freddy's eyes snapped open. "Really?" Freddy said. Vincent nodded his head, still avoiding eye contact. "Well, this is new," Freddy said as he grabbed a spare mask from behind him. "Under normal circumstances, I would brutally stuff you into one, but since you actually want to, I'll just let you do it yourself." The bear gave him the mask. "Thanks," Vincent said as he took it. "Can you all please turn around?" "Why, oh, right," Chica said. "Give you a little privacy." Soon the 3 animatronics turned around facing the wall. "Go on," Freddy said. "I won't look." Vincent made a few clangs and then a few bangs to pretend that he was putting a costume on, but really he had put his trench coat on and put his security hat back on there and was making noises. "Do you need some help with that?" Freddy asked. "No," he answered, feeling as his heartbeat could anybody standing in the room and that his arms and legs felt like lead. "I'm done. Finally," Bonnie said as the animatronics turned around. "You know, I really want another member of the band." They saw Vincent in all his purple glory, and their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Vincent grabbed the remote and smiled at them. Purple. Bonnie never finished his sentence, because Vincent had pointed the remote at the bunny and pressed the power button, and when he did, the bunny's eyes closed and he fell to the floor with a thud, as if he had been shot. Freddy lunged at him, but Vincent sidestepped and pressed the power button, seeing Freddy's eyes close as he fell to the ground, deactivated. Vincent stood over them. "I did it," he said to himself in a whispered voice as he opened both doors so he could drag out the deactivated animatronics. He started giggling, then he laughed. He had done it. Vincent kept laughing until he had remembered something. He had killed 5 children, yet there was only 3 in the room. Came to this realization, he heard a fast flurry of footsteps coming on the left side of the office and the sound of metal being dragged on concrete. "Oh shit," he tried to say as he tried to slam the button that was labeled door, but a razor-sharp hook got into his way of pressing the button. "Hello, old friend," said a shanty voice that belonged to an out-of-order fox. "I see that you've taken out me friends." Foxy stepped closer to him, making micro-sized bites with his mouth. "I'm not going to stuff you into a costume," Foxy said, with fury in his eye. "I'm going to slit your throat, just like you did to us." Vincent was a bit phased, but he actually liked Foxy more than the other animatronics. Yet here he was, trying to kill him. He sighed. The life of a killer was hard. But he didn't have a choice, considering the situation. "I'm going to get ya, you scallywag," Foxy yelled as he jumped at him. Vincent dived underneath, seeing the fox hit the floor, but the Foxy rolled into a ball and stood back up. He reached into his pocket, hoping to find the remote, but instead he felt an empty pocket. Panic flared in his mind as he looked for the remote, and he found it in the middle of the room. Foxy saw that he was eyeing and made a dive for the remote. Vincent dived as well. They both grabbed to the remote at the exact same time. "Give it to me," Vincent said. "Never, you landlubber." Two fought over the remote the same way two children would if they wanted to watch different cartoons, pressing random buttons and causing the lights to flicker on and off and turning on the computer to other channels such as the cooking channel.
Today I'm going to teach you how to make a chicken casserole.
Vincent kicked the fox in the gut but only succeeded in causing the fox to press a button on the remote.
How's it going, bros? My name is...
Foxy punched Vincent in the gut, causing him to fall to the floor, but still held onto the remote and changed the channel.
Top of the morning to you, ladies! My name is ch2 and welcome to a game called What?
Vincent did a low sweep to the inside of Foxy's legs, causing the fox to fall, but he felt his toe explode in pain as he too fell on top of Foxy, pressing a button on the remote and changing the channel.
Now for the news. City Council just finished construction on a new dog park. No dogs are allowed in the dog park. No people are allowed in the dog park. The fence is electrified and highly dangerous. Do not look at the hooded figures in the dog park. Do not approach the dog park. Do not think about the dog park for any given period of time.
Vincent and Foxy both stopped fighting for a second to absorb what the newscaster had just said. "Do you want to change?" Foxy asked. "Yeah," Vincent said. "The channel is beginning to creep me out." They both pressed a button on the remote and changed the channel. "Welcome to the soundtrack channel. Now playing the final battle from Final Fantasy IX. Immediately, a catchy battle beat came on from the TV. "Much better," Foxy said, agreed. They then resumed to the tussle that had before the old newscast about the dog park. Foxy swung his hook at his head, but he ducked and shoved Foxy and ripped the remote from his literal iron grip at the same time, causing him to trip over Chica's body and land right on mechanical Tushy. Vincent pointed the remote at the fox as if it was a gun. "Oh, you were always a bother," Vincent said. "Oh, about the dog park," the fox said confidently. "Nope, this," Vincent said as he pressed the power button. But right when he pressed the button, the fox jumped at him. The fox's eyes deactivated right when he was mid-leap, turning him to tackling Fox into a hurtling piece of steel. He quickly sidestepped and watched Foxy fall to the ground with a jarring clang. Vincent looked at the deactivated fox and the fallen friends. An odd silence was over the pizzeria. To be sure they were gone for good, he pressed the button under their jaw to make sure they were permanently deactivated. They didn't wake up. Triumph came over Vincent, a new feeling of relief coursed through him. It was finally over. He smiled and laughed again as he began to leave the office to burn the building down. The second he stepped out of the office, he felt his ears buzzing and his vision flicker. The words, "It's me," were burned into his mind. He opened his eyes and saw the yellow costume he had been using to lure the children sitting right in front of him, only that its eyes were pinpricks instead of regular eyes. Vincent got the remote out of his pocket, but he was beginning to feel a numbness in his entire body. The golden bear got closer. He raised the remote, but he felt like a huge force of gravity was pulling his arm out, trying not to get him to raise the remote. It was now only a few feet away from him, and Vincent had a bad idea of what it could do to him. He pointed the remote at the bear's foot and hit the power button, and as soon as he did, the pinpricks vanished from the bear's eyes, and it collapsed without a word. Vincent looked around to make sure that nothing came out of the dark and randomly attacked. After a few seconds, nothing came at him. He then walked on out the doors of the pizzeria, feeling as if a gigantic weight had been removed from his shoulders. He opened his car and got out a match and a bottle of alcohol along. And then he returned to the pizzeria, actually tempted to try the bottle to see if it had an interesting taste. Vincent walked through the main entrance to see that the golden bear was still there on the floor, deactivated. When he entered the office, his heart stopped. Only Foxy was the deactivated animatronic on the floor. The other three were gone. He then heard the familiar sound of metal footsteps behind him. Vincent pulled out his pistol and loaded it. He turned around expecting an angry Freddy and pals to maul him, but he only found an empty hall. He sighed and turned to face the door, and out of his right eye he saw something. He saw the blue eyes that belonged to Freddy. Vincent screamed in terror and ran out of the office, but for some reason he got a face full of door with a slam instead of it being an open room. He felt his vision fading from the impact, and for a minute he thought he was surrounded by the eyes of his victims. He closed his eyes and was ready to accept death.
Here we are, we're back again. Then why does a check say 1987? What's the past of the shade?